Ever since 2010, we wanted to be the best, but there was tanking. All the other fans said we were so blessed, but we were losing. We've never missed the playoffs this many times, you see. And at one point I didn't think it would happen. Oh, how unexceptionalistic of me. I've always known that we were the greatest team that had ever played. And it's time for us to win again, even if we don't get a parade. The GOAT, according to kids under 12. A man with a brow well endowed. Even in a gigantic bubble, the league was never in doubt. No one thought that we would make it here, but I shan't have any fear. We believe. No one thought we would win the title. We believe that LeBron's almost as good as Kobe. Okay, fine, he's better. And we believe that the Lakers deserve credit for building a team that attracts stars more than just LA weather. We are Lakers fans, and a Lakers fan believes.
Dodgers pulls up. Bang! Bang! James floats it up, and Anthony Davis with a one-handed tomahawk.
We'll have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry!
Watch your feet. You're in the NickVanExit row. I'm Nick Angstadt. I'm trying something new. This is the NickVanExit row. We're going to try to do three things. We're going to discuss the biggest stories and news in the NBA, break down film of teams and players across the league, and just have fun covering and watching the NBA. So let's dive into our first topic today. The NBA award system is so strange. Some of them matter a whole lot, like All-NBA. It's a prerequisite for getting a Supermax contract in some cases. And then some awards are just like NBA Hustle Award, which was given to Montrezl Harrell, and he isn't gaining back any of the money that he lost in the playoffs. So when the season was basically over, they just tried to sneak by some of these awards right by us, like Lou Williams trying to go get some wings. Speaking of Lou Williams and wings, Executive of the Year went to Clippers' Lawrence Frank, which is objectively hilarious. LA Clippers President of Basketball Operations Lawrence Frank getting Executive of the Year after his team was favored to win the title and lost a 3-1 lead in the second round is like if they gave the Best Shipbuilder Award to the guy that made the Titanic before it was set sail. If those dudes from Game of Thrones were nominated for an Emmy before season 8 even aired. If they made a Star Wars trilogy without even writing a script first. If you bought a ton of stock in the stock market in June of 1929. This is the Kevin's Famous Chili of awards.
It's probably the thing I do best.
It's weird they give out awards this late, but the weirdest part of this specific award is that Sam Presti of the OKC Thunder came in second, largely for a deal in which he made with Lawrence Frank. A deal which now, after the fact, looks like a much bigger win for Presti, who got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 5 first-round draft picks, and 2 pick swaps in the deal. They basically own the Clippers draft for the next 5 years, and Kawhi and Paul George are only really under contract for the next season. Now, Lawrence Frank did get the best player in the deal, which also allowed him to get Kawhi, but 1 year of that experiment is done, and they only have one more shot before both of those guys can capitalize the C in Clippers curse for good. But apparently voters thought that this deal was good enough to give both sides their votes. Now I want to move on to something that I don't normally like talking about much, but alas, I just couldn't resist today. Charles Barkley has been zooming around to different shows all summer, saying that he ranks LeBron James 7th all time. Forget the GOAT conversation. He said on Dan Patrick's show during the NBA Finals that if LeBron wins his 4th title, he'll get closer to Kobe.
Does another title change where LeBron is all time?
Well, it moved him closer to Kobe. You know, I got him 6th on my list, 7th, right behind Kobe.
Back in April, this was Barkley's list. Michael Jordan, Oscar Robertson, Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in some order at 3, 4, and 5. Then Kobe Bryant and LeBron James. Now, Oscar Robertson and Wilt Chamberlain were incredible, great players, and I'm not a rings or you're worthless kind of guy, but they both played 14 seasons, and Oscar only won 1 title and Wilt won 2. Leave it to Charles Barkley to not include championships as a measurement for greatest player of all time. That's like the Bachelorette saying that she's looking for a guy that doesn't seek attention, just like she does.
Sure, Dan.
GOAT lists are usually dumb, and I'm certainly not old enough to condemn Wilt or Oscar Robertson because I never saw them play, but if you're the greatest player of all time, don't you think you'd win more than 1 title? Remember, when Wilt and Oscar entered the league, there were only 8 teams. 8 teams in the whole league. That's not even a whole album. The NBA basically had a mixtape of a league back then. Imagine the talent of the current NBA spread across 8 teams. 330 current NBA players just wouldn't even make the cut. By the end of their careers, there were 17 teams, but that's a lot of crappy extension teams too. Plus, there were only 2 playoff rounds. You'd only have to win 7 games against 2 teams to win a title back in the 60s. LeBron and Kobe played in a league with 30 teams their whole entire career, and you have to win 16 games against 4 teams. That difference doesn't get mentioned enough, and it has to count for something in this ridiculous conversation. I know, it's just Charles Barkley, but
That's terrible.
LeBron James led the Los Angeles Lakers to their 17th championship, his 4th title, his 3rd with a different team. He's deservedly won the Finals MVP, and LeBron has won 4 out of the last 10 NBA Finals he's appeared in. The big difference between the ones he's lost and the ones he's won has been the production of his sidekicks, and the 2020 title was no different. Anthony Davis was incredible, putting up over 27 points, 9 boards, 3 assists, a steal, and a block per game. Only 9 players have ever put up that kind of line in the playoffs, no matter how far they made it. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did it 4 times and won only 1 title doing it. LeBron did it 4 times and didn't win a title those 4 seasons. Hakeem Olajuwon did it twice in the Rockets' 2 title runs. Larry Bird did it once in a Celtics title run. Then Kevin Durant, Patrick Ewing, Kevin Garnett, and Karl Malone all did it once in futile attempts to win a title. But Anthony Davis won a title averaging this line, and he had the highest true shooting percentage of all these great players during his run. It's been incredible to watch him step into his role, dominate on the defensive end, hold LeBron accountable on defense, and be as good as he was on offense. And that's the side of the ball I want to focus on today. Anthony Davis is a big man who's incredible in the pick and roll game. He scored 1.28 points per possession as a roller in the regular season, which ranks 2nd in the league among players with a similar number of attempts. And he bumped that up to 1.43 points per possession on rolls in the playoffs. Davis also shot 38.3% from 3-point range in the playoff run, up from 33% in the regular season. But it wasn't Davis's inside game or his outside game on offense that impressed the most during this run. It was all the work he did in the mid-range. A mid-range jump shot is all about balance. More so than a 3-point shot or a post-up move, a mid-range shot requires elevation. Normally the shot comes off much higher off of your hand than a normal 3-point shot because the defender is much closer. This is true for Dirk here and for Anthony Davis as well. During the regular season, it didn't seem like Davis's mid-range shots were consistently balanced at all. They were rushed and leaning. It was kind of a mess. During the regular season, Davis shot just 34.9% from the mid-range on 4.1 attempts per game. But Davis's confidence soared in the playoffs, which is wild considering Davis went 3 of 25 from the mid-range during the 8 seeding games in the bubble. But whatever got into AD's head worked because he was hitting from all angles. Davis shot nearly 50% on mid-range jump shots, attempting 5.5 per game in the playoffs. That's better than CJ McCollum, Jason Tatum, and even the great mid-range artist Kawhi Leonard. In fact, the only player that shot better from the mid-range in the playoffs with a similar number of attempts was Chris Paul at 56.8%, and he only played in 7 games. AD's mid-range jump shot really took the Neville Longbottom glow-up journey and slashed right through the NBA. AD's newfound confidence really balanced him. He was more decisive on jump shots and just in his offensive game overall. But decisive doesn't always mean fast or quick. Davis took his time on some of these shots, and that patience allowed him to set up better and not rush his shooting motion. Davis doesn't need to rush these shots, especially since the game has really slowed down for him. If a defender tried to rush him or swipe at the ball, AD is good enough to blow by his man, who is normally the rim protector, which allowed him to finish around a helpless rim. One last adjustment AD seemed to make was the wide stance he took on mid-range shots when he was able to. I believe this wider base allowed him to stay more balanced and keep everything in line. Anthony Davis's improvement in the mid-range really changed things for the Lakers. It allowed the Lakers to play either big or small depending on the matchups because AD could now score on all three levels. He could score at the rim if the Lakers were playing small and the floor was spaced. He could score from the outside if they were playing big and needed him to be the one that spaced the floor. And no matter what style of play, the mid-range is always open, especially if he's hitting shots like this.
Anthony Davis guarded by Leonard. A little sidestep. His perimeter jump shot
with his dribble penetration and attacks.
And he may make some threes, and as you mentioned, you just got to live with some stuff as Davis hits a monster bucket late in the shot clock.
Thanks for watching the Nick VanExit Row. We'll be back hopefully once a week breaking down the biggest stories and players in the NBA. Please subscribe to the channel and follow me on Twitter at NickVanExit. Boom.
Hey, Anthony, after you hit the shot, it looked like on the video that you mouthed Kobe. Take us through that moment.
I did.
We believe that Kobe willed this title from heaven. We believe that 80 has a case to be the best player in the league. And we believe this one's for Andrew Gallock, Anthony Brown, Tarek Beck, Xavier Henry, and Ryan Kelly. Every time the score hit 24, and you knew the Mamba was here and more. You could be a Lakers fan